Parents of Reddit, what's been the most WTF moment that you've witnessed with how someone interacts with your child? My 3-year-old daughter is allergic to strawberries. My mother-in-law and aunt-in-law both know this and have been asked multiple times to not keep them where she can find them. A few weeks ago I went to pick her up from their house and I find her sitting at the bar eating strawberries with them. I went ducking ballistic. They said they didn't see the harm, and of course not. They weren't the ones who had to comfort her for the following 24 hours while she was covered from head to toe with hives and having explosive diarrhea. I no longer allow her to be over there unless my husband or I are there too. I can't trust them not to do it again. We were invited to a neighbor's party. At this party is another woman I'd never met before who asked if she could hold my 6-month-old boy. No problem. He's adorable. She then proceeds to kiss him on the mouth and said, "There, remember that I was your first kiss." I immediately took him back and had to avoid her the rest of the evening without being seen as a rude one in the party. She didn't take hints well either. I've been the WTF person. I grabbed her child and sped off with him. I was ice skating and zoomed unintentionally towards this kid. He wasn't small enough to go under my legs, so I grabbed him and we both slowed to an awkward halt. I apologized profusely to the parents. "Hey, you apologized. And it was a total accident. At least you didn't blow him over. You saved him from getting a fassa full of ice after your directional screw up." I had my 11-day-old out at a restaurant for my sister's birthday. I was wearing her in a wrap. A woman came up to me, commented about the baby, and tried to lift her out of the wrap saying it's okay. I work at a school. No bitch. It isn't okay. Old man in a mobility scooter told my 4-year-old daughter how pretty she is and offered her to climb up onto his lap and go for a ride, this more in a flirtatious voice than that you would use with a young child. She's 7 now and has always been fairly outgoing, but I have never seen her instantly afraid of someone like she was with that man. I was pretty shook up once my brain was able to process the whole exchange. Not a parent, but this happened to me when I was a kid. We were on our annual camping trip with my cousins at a lake we go to every year. We were age 11, 10 and 8. While swimming by the shore, an elderly man approached us and asked if he could take some underwater photos of us. He said he was a photographer and proceeded to show us an album of all these underwater photos he took, all being young girls in bikinis. Thankfully my dad and uncle saw the whole thing, stepped in, told him to scram, and reported him to the park ranger. None of us realized at the time that we were in potential danger and felt bad for how our dads treated the man. Looking back on it as an adult, I realize how sinister things could have gone. When my son was about 2, my husband was at the store with him, and a lady came up and said, "Your son's hair is gorgeous. Where do you get his highlights done?" Husband came home and asked me if people actually get their toddler son's hair colored. No, not sane people. Nothing as bad as the rest of these, but at age 4 or so, my kid asked a 5 or 6-year-old at the public pool if she wanted to play, and the kid gave her a look like the question was insane. But the WTF was the mom's reaction. "Why was that girl talking to you? Do you know her?" And then the mom looks at my kid like she's got 3 heads for daring to ask another child in a public pool to play. By their appearance and lack of accent, they were Midwestern Americans, so there wasn't a cultural reason for the WTF. My siblings are twins. When they were very little, maybe 6 months, we went to Walmart. People are fascinated with twins, so we got random strangers asking us questions about them all the time. One time, Mom and I were fastening them into their car seats and this little old lady wanted to see how cute they were, so she climbed into our minivan to get a better look. She didn't mean any harm, but still 7-year-old me was creeped out. When my oldest was about 2 months old and I was still on maternity leave, I had a homeless I suspect woman approach me and ask if she could have my baby. We were living in a not so great area of a suburb of Dallas, a place where we'd sometimes get homeless 40-plus-year-olds trick or treating by themselves on Halloween. I had just taken my baby to the doctor for a checkup. It was probably a week after I'd been cleared to drive after an emergency C-section. This crazy woman, who I'd never seen on my street before, and who looked and smelled like she hadn't bathed in at least a week, approached me as I struggled to get the baby carrier out of the car. She said my baby was beautiful and asked if she could keep it for a while. I said no. So she asked if she could babysit. I said no thanks and made a limping break for the front door. I locked the door and called my husband for help. She hung out around the front porch for the half hour before he made it home. We moved away from that area a month later. We were at Walmart during a serious regional water outage, so it was absolutely swamped with people looking for bottled water. A friend of my mother-in-law was there, unknown to us, and without any warning, came up from behind and tried to lift our infant son from my wife's arms. This of course sent my wife into a panic, since she thought it was an attempted abduction using the crowd for cover, and she was still on edge, even after recognizing the woman. Neither Mill nor her friend understood why my wife was so upset with the woman. We don't really talk to the woman or her family anymore, and Mill still thinks we are too hard on her friend. My niece's grandma is strange. She took my sister and 6-month-old niece through the drive-thru of Whataburger and actually bought the baby a chicken nugget kids meal with a Coke. Also, she recorded a very eerie video of herself singing my niece's name to her with the flash just inches from her face when she was a few days old. It's very uncomfortable to watch. My sister refuses to watch it. Edit no. The woman in question is not my own mom. I would have gladly volunteered that info. Her paternal grandmother is the cook in question. And no, I won't post the video, because I have no idea if her children read it and her voice my niece's name are easily distinguishable. Just know it's fucking creepy and disturbing. LOL. My Mill thought it was a good idea to lick my daughter's hands clean after lunch. She put her whole tiny hands in her mouth. Apparently when I was a baby, a woman came up to me on a train and said hi to me and played with me for a second, then took one of my feet and put it in her mouth. My parents switched carriages after that, thank God. I had just finished up dinner at a diner with my 3-year-old son and we were in line to pay. I said stay next to me, Finn, and some older dude walking out stops and says you shouldn't say his name outside. I could use that later to do stuff. I went from 1:10 in a millisecond and it got heated. He walked away. Then some 70-plus-year-old tried to pick up my son to console him, while his wife yelled at him to stop. I was a little frazzled by the time we got home to the wife. When my son was around 8 MOs and I was changing him in the bathroom, a woman came out of a stall, strangely surveyed my diaper change practices and proceeded to tell me how my son has a big penis before leaving without washing her hands. I took my 4-year and 1-year nephews out to the park a couple months ago. While they were running around chasing each other in the grass, this woman comes out of nowhere, grabs my older nephew and starts sort of petting his hair. I bolted towards him as soon as I saw her reaching for him and grabbed him within 5 seconds of her picking him up, and then grabbed younger nephew in case she tried to go for him next. I'd never seen this woman before in my life and have no idea why she thought it was okay to grab a stranger's child. An employee at Target once told my 6-year-old that, based on how she was drinking from a water bottle, she would probably be really popular with the boys in high school, maybe even middle school. Target took ducking forever to respond, and it's possible that employee is still there. Edit, this was a teenage boy working the register. Edit, to they responded and sent me a 50 gift card that got donated at work. The regional manager person told me I can't guarantee if you come to the store again he won't still be there. Yes, my sil. And I freaked out. And luckily the kiddo didn't know what that person was inferring. This happened to me when I was about 3 years old. My mom told me about this like a year ago. Some guy who was known as Dr. House in our village because of his insane drug use and his appearance walked up to me in a park and started talking to me in baby language, goo goo gaga blah blah blah, etc. My mom thought he was just being funny, but he became really angry when he heard I could actually talk. He lifted me in the air and stumbled away with me in his hands, yelling "little liar." A guy who was also in the park then tackled our beloved doctor and brought me back to my mom. When my oldest was a few months, my cousins came to visit. They asked whether I started giving my daughter ice baths yet. Now, a bit of background: we are all Russian-Ukrainian immigrants and popular in the Soviet times was the theory of Zakalinia, adjusting the body to cold weather for supposed health reasons. I was subjected to it. I did not enjoy it, because I'm a mammal who doesn't enjoy torture, nor do I enjoy torturing any small children, much less my own. Anyway, no, I tell my cousin, as she launches into a long explanation of how they did ice baths for their son when he was an infant, and how he hated it, and how it was good for him even though he cried. I'm sure the expression I wore on my face can best be described as WTF. My cousin's explanation peters out as she points at her husband and yells, "He made me do it." One of my ex-husband's aunts was obsessed with my daughter. She was constantly trying to separate my daughter and I so she could be alone with her. Like she'd offer to change or feed her, then take her to separate room away from me. I can honestly make a list of some of the weird things she's done. Probably one of the most WTF thing was when my daughter was 2. She was toddling around being her normal cute self. Aunt reaches out and grabs my daughter bottom and says, "Such a tight cute little ass." I start yelling at her. Everyone thinks I'm blowing it out of proportion. That was probably one of the most WTF things I've seen. My youth pastor would apparently say some borderline things to my mom about my sister and I. Unrelated. My mom was getting less into the church every single Sunday routine and sending us to youth group Saturday nights because we were busy with school and sports. Then one night the youth pastor drunk dialed my mom and left a message on the answering machine begging her to come back to church because he missed her seeing your beautiful, beautiful girls. Then I didn't have to go to church anymore. Yay. Most of these are strangers, so here's a real, sadly ongoing, WTF moment with a particularly close relative of my child. My ex-wife blames our daughter for her husband molesting her. Her responses ranged from, "She asked for it," to, "She must have enjoyed it if she'll let it happen for so long," to, "She should kept her mouth shut," to, "She's lying." Rage-filled. I am. Surprisingly, he confessed, and his statement to police matched the one my daughter made later. He's now in prison for the next 25 years, which took almost 2 years to be heard by a judge, but apparently eligible for parole in 12 or so. Sadly, her mom still sides with him, visiting him in prison weekly. This, in addition to the above, has caused a lot of mixed feelings and stress for my daughter, her sisters, and myself. In fact, one sister flat out believes she's lying. Her mom's attitude: "What about me? What about how this messed up my life? He was my soulmate. It's my life and my choice, and what my kids think don't matter." Credit to my daughter, who is almost an adult now. Amazingly, she hasn't decided to burn that bridge yet, but I see it coming. One day, it seems inevitable. It will be interesting to see how this plays out with future weddings, grandchildren, etc. Especially if one daughter welcomes him in her life and the other two don't. Imagine the shit my oldest will continue to go through. Sorry, Mom. He's not invited. And if you bring him, you're not invited. But for now, her mom can hide behind the lies. Because outside of very few people, no one knows it happened. Her mom can pretend he's working, or they're on break, or whatever bullshit she tells people. I'm also pretty sure she's told some people that he's not around because she thinks our daughter lead. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.